Thank you, Annette. That was awesome. That was beautiful. That was The Old Chapel by Moonlight, composed by Amy Beach. Hello, welcome. My name is Scarlett Trippsmith, and I will be your technical liaison for today. And this is the Humboldt Unitarian Universalist Fellowship with our virtual Sunday of Love's Labor, Women's History Here and Now. So if this is your first time joining us, we're so happy that you found us. And, sorry about that. We are so happy that you found us. Oh my goodness. In the tech world, when in. Welcome. I just want to acknowledge what a beautiful Sunday foggy morning it is in Humboldt today. I took a step outside and I filled the beautiful redwood air with my lungs and just felt so at peace. And so I encourage you guys to get some of that today. Now, I know that we all come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, different backgrounds, but I hope that you can all find comfort, connection, and love here. We ask that if you feel comfortable, please keep your cameras on so that we can see all your beautiful faces. Now, as you can see, you are muted. However, later after the service, we will have our virtual coffee hour where you will be able to converse with your fellow community and our special guest speaker giving the sermon today, Miss Karen Harris. Now, it is our UU traditions to take part in the sharing of joys and sorrows that weigh in our hearts. Now, in this space, we want you to feel free to share with us and let us hold you in this virtual space. Today, we have Bonnie MacGregor taking our joys, sorrows, and celebrations. So if you feel called to share, please send your joys and sorrows in the chat to Bonnie MacGregor. For during these times when we cannot safely meet together, these online services are our way of connecting and continuing to keep the mission of our congregation alive. And we're glad you're here, joining us and engaging in this work through embracing diversity and empowering those connections. Speaking of connections, this month's Social Action March fundraiser empowers our connection for Food for People to ensure every person in Humboldt County in need can access nutritious foods and local children, seniors, families can connect with the services that address the root causes of hunger and poverty. Support Food for People's efforts to feed our community by donating today. Please make the social action donations to HUF indicating that they are for Food for People, and we'll have an option for that during our offertory later today. We are committed to fighting for the worth and dignity of every person inside our community and out. And today we want to acknowledge and really honor that the people who lived and was the traditional home of the land that we live on now as the Wiyot people. We remind ourselves that we must put our words and our principles into actions for the justice of the common good. So let us wake up to this world that we live in, to its beauty, to its wonder, to its tragedy and pain. And in the words of our friends and colleagues involved in Black Lives Matter, let us wake up, let us stay awake, and let us stay woke. Together we can transcend barriers, be they racial, political, economic, social, or religious. So today we welcome you and thank you for sharing your presence with us. And now in this time, in this place, let us worship together, starting with our Chalice Lighting and Aspiration. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Bonnie MacGregor.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see your faces today. And I'd like to begin by lighting the chalice with a little assistance from my partner, Cynthia. And I light this chalice for the sun and the dawn, which we did not create, for the moon and the evening, which we did not make, for the food which we plant but cannot grow, for friends and loved ones we have not earned and cannot buy, for this gathering of all us here who welcome us just as we are, and for all that comes to us as gifts of being from sources beyond ourselves. We lift up our hearts in gratitude this day. And will you please join me and all of us together as we renew our aspiration as a fellowship together. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. We're so happy this morning that our choir director, Elisabeth Harrington, can be here to help us in leading us in singing our hymn today.
Thank you, Bonnie, and good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you. Just a reminder that I'm leading the hymn, and you might only hear me singing, but we're all singing together in spirit, and so I hope you're singing in your own space as we go through this wonderful text for number 331, Life is the Greatest Gift of All.
Life is the greatest gift of all, the riches on this earth. Life and its creatures, great and small, of high and lowly birth. So treasure it and measure it with deeds of shining worth. Mind is the brightest gift of all, its thoughts no barrier bars. It seeks creation's hidden plan, its quest surmounts all bars. It rains the wind, it chains the storm, it pays the utmost stars. We are of life, its shining gift, the measure of all things. Up from the dust our temples lift, our vision soars on wings. For seed and root, for flower and fruit, our grateful spirit sings.
Thank you, Elisabeth, so much. I can't wait till we can all be together and hear each other all singing. I think I always feel like I sound better when I'm singing with everybody else, but I really appreciate that. And now if you do have any joys or sorrows, this is that feeling that we get when we can know that we're being held by, yes, virtual, but when we look into the faces of people here, we know that we're being held by real human beings. So if there's anything that is important to you to share today, please put it in the chat and I will drop a pebble into the water of my home and share it with you. So this is the weekly reminder, and thank you to Sina Marino and Sylvia Shaw for displaying the Black Lives Matter banner yesterday. We're all invited to join this group on Saturdays at noon to 1:30. So it's really important, especially this week during the trial of the man who the police officer who killed George Floyd. I think this is a powerful time to remember that Black Lives Matter. And Well, from Tracy Jordan French, a happy birthday to June or Junko Davis, who we're happy to see has joined us today. From Chip Sharp, Julianne Bettini is home with art after a 5-day respite at the hospice facility in Eureka. We hold her in her hearts. Another from Barbara Clark, another happy birthday, Junko. So happy to see your face this morning, and as all who know you are. Sina, it wants to thank everyone who's responded to the social action survey, on climate actions, and we'll be sending out a snail mail to those who haven't had a chance. And this is from Tracy Jordan French. A joy for the publication of a book of poetry by my friend and teacher, Ellen Givens. Well, congratulations, Ellen. From Kate McLean. Prayers for my dear friend, Pam Chestnut, who is now in hospice. We hold her and you, Kate, in our hearts. And for Jenny Hansen, for my dear friend Regina, who just died after a long and awful illness. Oh, Jenny, so sorry. And may you feel our warm hearts holding you. Let's see, I don't see any. Oh, from Debbie Harrison. Debbie will be starting chemotherapy sometime in the next 2 weeks. Oh, Debbie, we offer you our strength and courage and love. And may it be an easy one and successful. And from David and June Davis, happy to join you, my dear friends from Humboldt. We are so happy you're here. I think that's all that I see. I wanted to end with 2 pebbles. This is a service that is celebrating Women's History Month, and we're very much holding up the role that women are playing these days. But I want to acknowledge the many men in this fellowship and beyond who are themselves stepping forward to care for others in these times. Here's to you, and bless you. And this for all the joys and sorrows and celebrations kept in our hearts and not shared today. Thank you. I'm so happy that Lou's love is here today. She is, to me, an example of a strong woman who has gone through these COVID times with extraordinary strength and retaining her love and caring. And she will be sharing our story for all ages this morning, and perhaps a reflection to follow.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here with you. I'm going to adjust my screen so you can see the book. Okay. I did practice this ahead of time, but still tricky. So this book is titled We Are Water Protectors, written by Carol Lindstrom and illustrated by Michaela Goade. And just a quick I just wanted to give you a quick little backstory on this. In Ojibwe culture, women are the protectors of the water and men are the protectors of fire. There is an Anishinaabe prophecy that speaks of two roads. One road is a natural path. It leads to global peace and unity that embraces the sacred relationship between humanity and all living things. On this path, all orders of creation, mineral, plant, animal, and human, are relatives deserving of respect and care. We are instructed to use our voices to speak for those who have not been given a voice. On this path, there is no black snake. The earth is not damaged, and the grass grows lush and green. This prophecy, known as the Seven Fires prophecy, says that if humans choose the natural path, then we will proceed toward peace and unity and a healthy Mother Earth. The other road is described as a hard-surfaced highway where everything moves faster and faster at an unimaginable speed. On this path, humans embrace technological advancement with little regard for Mother Earth. Many Native nations believe this path is symbolized by the oil pipelines, the black snakes that crisscross our lands, bringing destruction and harm. This path leads to a damaged earth. So here we are, the water protectors. We are the water protectors. Water is the first medicine, Nokomis told me. It nourishes us inside our mother's body as it nourishes us here on Mother Earth. Water is sacred, she said. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. The river's rhythm runs through my veins, runs through my people's veins. My people talk of a black snake that will destroy the land, spoil the water, poison plants and animals, wreck everything in its path. When my people first spoke of the black snake, they foretold that it wouldn't come for many, many years. Now the black snake is here. Its venom burns the land, courses through the water, making it unfit to drink. Take courage. I must keep the black snake away from my village's water. I must rally my people together. To stand for water, to stand for the land, to stand as one against the black snake. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. It will not be easy. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, the winged ones, the crawling ones, the four-legged, the two-legged, the plants, trees, rivers, lakes, the earth. We are all related. Tears, like waterfalls, stream down, tracks down my face, tracks down my people's face. Water is alive. Water remembers our ancestors who came before us, she said. Water has its own spirit, Nokomis told me. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. We are stewards of the earth. Our spirits have not been broken. We are water protectors. We stand. The black snake is in for the fight of its life. Yeah. that is the end. I encourage you to get a copy of this book. It has a pledge at the end and more of that backstory. Beautiful illustrations to meditate upon. I was going to do a quick share. Karen had asked me to share as my experience of being a mother and somebody who also works in a profession outside the home and works full time. I'm the mother of two daughters, Penelope and Danae. They're ages 7 and 11. And this year for me personally has been very challenging, and I know it has for everyone, and I want to honor that. And so I was thinking about just how, because the theme here is relationships, how important relationships have been in getting me through this difficult time. At the beginning, I'm a special education teacher for preschool age children. And so what I do really is build relationships is at the core of that. I help them with their social and language skills, which are really building blocks to relationships. And with COVID, I feel like it really did put a big strain on relationships, and we had to kind of simulate those relationships digitally, and which is very difficult with young children. And then my own daughter had a serious trampoline accident. She broke her leg, and I had to take some time off of work for that. Then my father died within that span, and mother was very ill with COVID, and she made it through, thankfully. And but the thing that has just really carried me through all that have been the relationships. And my own mother, when she's well, she cares for my children while I'm working. I'm very fortunate to have her. The friends who came through, close friends, even little things like a card or a call, or and some bringing food, or other forms of support. Another friend taking care of my kids when my mom was away. And so I want to send out a lot of gratitude for the relationships in my life that have really carried me. And I just also want to send out some love and appreciation to all the mothers out there. And I know so many of them feel like they're doing it alone, or are doing it alone, and how difficult that can be. Thank you. It's good to be here. Okay, and I'm going to mute.
Thank you, Luz. Relationships are what fellowship is all about. And our relationship to our speaker is a precious one for all of us. Karen Harris has been a minister here. She is a teacher. She is a a practitioner of spiritual practices that give her that sourcing that she then brings to us. And she becomes an example of how that is meaningful. When we were looking at this being Women's History Month, it's difficult in these times of not just COVID change, but the massive changes in social consciousness that are going on. And as worship leaders, when we looked at Black History Month and Women's History Month, it wasn't an easy choice to make as to what kinds of programs we wanted to do. And I just happened to, or perhaps synchronicity led us to, I invited Karen to a conversation that I needed to have. And in the course of that wonderful conversation with her, she began to talk about how she saw what women were going through at this time. And this light went off in me. And I thought, oh, I have to wait until she finishes to be able to maybe ask her if she would want to share some of this with the fellowship. And fortunately, the timing and her gracious giving coincided, and she agreed to do the service today. So I'm very, very grateful to her for on so many levels. And just one gratitude piece to her is that it was when Karen was here that she really taught us what shared ministry was about. And she helped us develop that strength in the congregation, and that has very much carried us through these COVID times as worship leaders. So thank you, Karen, for that. And now I'll step aside and let her speak.
Thank you, Bonnie. Wow, what a sweet introduction. It's a total pleasure to be here. I'm very grateful to be here with all of you twice in 2 months. It's really a gift. Thank you so much for entrusting this Sunday to me, and particularly this topic, which, as many of you know, is really very, very dear and close to my heart. As always, I like to begin by just looking around. What's going on? What's today? Where are we at? And I thought it was very interesting as I looked at the calendar and put 2 and 2 together and realized today's Palm Sunday. And of course, you know, many of us are no longer celebrating the Christian traditions that perhaps our forebears did. But I think all of us can relate to the ending of a time of isolation and self-deprivation. And that's what Palm Sunday is. Palm Sunday comes as Lent comes to a close, which of course mirrors the 40 days of Jesus in the desert, in isolation and self-deprivation, which we have all experienced a lot of in the last year. So as we stand on the edge of a coming time, it's a great time to contemplate what we've learned and what we've experienced. And I don't know how you all feel in your lives. I am really feeling that there's much that I have learned from this time of the last year, and much that I want to carry forward with me and incorporate into my life as it continues on in this new phase. So we'll be thinking about that together some today. So love's labor, the labor of love, the work that we do because of love and connection, not for pay or any outer reward, but the work that all human beings did long before currency existed, long before there was ever a coin or a piece of paper that we could trade for value. Nurturing mammals always took care of their young. And so it's a defining element of the family of animals to which we belong. And as human beings, with our incredibly long span of maturation, the care of the young and the vulnerable is actually a defining element of our species. So love's labor, the care that we give to those too vulnerable to care for themselves. And as many of you know, I like at the beginning to bring it home to personal experience. So let's take a moment to contemplate who has cared for me. Perhaps you are one of those folks who, even now at this moment, someone cooks your meals, someone cleans your clothes, cleans your house. This may be. If so, wonderful. Celebrate that. You may be someone who does that for others. But one thing unites us all. We were all, every one of us today here on this call, all of us were cared for someone as we were young during the long period of our upbringing. So let's take a moment to drop into gratitude. Let's take a moment to bring our caretakers to mind, the ones who cared for us when we were small. So let's close our eyes and bring them in, invite them in. Remember what they looked like, what they smelled like, how it felt to be held on their lap. And bring their face vividly before you. And if you're able, if you can, thank them for what they gave to you. For each one of us, there is a mother. But what's really more amazing is for each one of them, there's another mother and another mother and another, all the way back. The last time we were together, we were contemplating our teachers and how our teachers would toss sparks towards us, sparks of inspiration and wisdom. And our job is to catch them and hold them and pass them on. And I remember in that sermon, the words came to say, if even one person had dropped that spark, we wouldn't be able to catch the wisdom of that teacher. The same is true here. If even one mother dropped the ball, we would not be here today. So all those mothers are essential to our presence here on this planet at this time. Despite the fact that not one of us would be here without every single one of those mothers, caregiving of all kinds is valued far less in our culture than other forms of work. Child care, elder care, house cleaning, teaching, the care of the most vulnerable and needy, or in another frame, the care of those too young or too old to be economically productive. The care of these vulnerable people is not valued economically in our culture. And in fact, it's increasingly viewed simply as a distraction from the working responsibilities of gainfully employed adults. We saw this so vividly in the past year as our schools shut down and our nursing homes were eviscerated. The national response, what there was of a national response, focused on the economy. We saw the fact laid bare that our economy is actually built on the foundation of the unpaid or poorly paid labor of millions of people, primarily women, many of whom no sooner finish raising their children than they find themselves caring for their elders. It's not just in America that this is an issue. I found a really interesting story in Iceland in October of 1975. After generations of learning less than their male companions, women at that time in Iceland earned less than 60% of what men did. And so the word went out, we're going to take a day off. The Women's Day Off, they called it. And on that day, 90% of the women in Iceland did not go to their paid jobs and they didn't do any work at home. Children went to work with their fathers. Many factories had to close, and all of the street food disappeared. It was called the Long Friday. The following year, Iceland enacted equal pay as law. But what's really interesting is that 5 years later, in 1980, Iceland elected the first democratically elected female president in the world. Is that what we need to do around here to get a female president? Maybe it's time to go on strike. A study of unpaid labor in 2019 found that if American women earned a minimum wage for the unpaid work they do around the house and caring for relatives, they would have made $1.5 trillion in 2019. I read that fact and it blew my mind. I thought I have to dig a little bit deeper. So I did a search and found out how many adult women there were in America in 2019. And I did the math. That comes out to $12,000 for each adult woman. That sounds like an amazing amount of money on the one hand, right? Imagine if all the women caretakers and caregivers had had that extra $12,000 in their pocket in 2020. What could they have done? But there's another way of looking at it. If you drill down just a little bit deeper and you do the math, that amounts to $33 a day. So I ask you, on the pure face of the economic value of it, would you become a mother for $33 a day? Would that be adequate for all the work that you would do? So here's a truly radical thought. What if that work was worth more than minimum wage? What if the work to raise the next generation was valued as highly as the work of a plumber or an accountant or a lawyer? A recent article in the New York Times said, more and more people are coming around to the idea that the morass of America's social ills might be traceable to an incorrect relationship to work and the question of whose work is valuable. How might this year have looked different had the work we do to care for one another, ourselves, and the world around us been valued at a premium? How would the future look different, the writer asks, if we refused to base our life and our reproduction on the suffering of others? That's a powerful question. And it raises up into our awareness an absolutely crucial question. What do we value? What is most important in our lives? And how do we act on that knowledge of what we value? So again, let's bring it home. Let's take a moment and contemplate, what do I value? What is most valuable in my life? And how do I shape my life to give importance to what I value? Can you give a monetary value to what you value the most? Does it have a value in dollars and cents? This is a question we cannot ask ourselves too often. And we would do well to ask it again and again, to contemplate deeply, because it may be that we find that what we thought we valued is not bringing us the fulfillment for which we had hoped. We may need to ask and look again and again. We may need to contemplate more deeply, and we may need to change. Yesterday, was the fourth, and I think perhaps final, at least for now, celebration of the life of Scott Sattler. We began 2 months ago with opening the window to memorializing Scott in our service on Martin Luther King Sunday. And then there were 2 in the Sufi community. Yesterday was the family's memorial. And at the end of the memorial, it was so beautiful, such a beautiful celebration of such an amazing human being. And at the end, we were all just kind of hanging out with Kathy and his 2 daughters, and a beautiful, wonderful, wise, elderly woman who used to live here with us in Humboldt, Northern Nisa, who's now up in Canada, very, very elderly. At the very end, she came on to give her thanks to Kathy and Scott's daughters. And she said, with beauty and radiance on her face, she said, "God is love. Scott is love. Love is all that matters. Love is all that matters." This is a woman who stands at the very end of her life, a life in which she searched widely and contemplated deeply. This is a woman of wisdom, a woman who in another culture would be an elder and a sage. And in truth, she is an elder in her Sufi community, but in another culture, she would be an elder for all of us, respected by all, as a woman of wisdom, a guide for the younger generations to help them find their true heart's path. But sadly, we have few such elders, not because they don't exist, but because we don't recognize them. We're too busy chasing other, less valuable things. We have in our culture today a huge chasm, a huge dichotomy between what really matters: our loved ones, our children, a pristine waterfall, a virgin forest. I'd like to point out some ancient trees in Richardson Grove. And then we have the world of the market, the world of dollars and cents and big box trucks, the world of monetary exchange and economic value. And in truth, this dichotomy of value can be found in human cultures throughout space and time. We can look back in our Christian trajectory 2,000 years ago to the time of Jesus. And there's one phrase that Jesus spoke that the most scholars agree. You know, they did all these tests of all the things that were said to have been said by Jesus, and they gave them different marks. All the scholars got together and they voted, and they said this was the one that was most likely to actually have been said by Jesus and was most representative of his teachings. And that is, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's. Caesar's kingdom is the kingdom ruled and measured by the coin upon which his face is imprinted. God's kingdom is the kingdom of the human heart, which is, according to the Hebrew scriptures, created and fashioned in the image of God. This phrase, this teaching of Jesus, points toward the dichotomy between the kingdom of coin and the kingdom of the heart, the kingdom of relationship. We have on one hand a common coin, and on the other, the vast, complex, interdependent web of all life, of all that exists in the cosmos, which we sense and feel and love and care for through the agency of our human heart. We have traded the infinity we have been given for the imaginary world of the common coin. As William Wordsworth puts it, the world is too much with us, late and soon. Getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. And this poem was written in 1802, over 200 years ago, when things were a lot better than they are now in the natural world. In truth, the trajectory of human history is a long movement out of and away from our immersion in nature as the reach of the domination of the world of coin expands ever further to dominate every aspect of our lives. It doesn't have to be this way. We could easily imagine another way of being. As the writers of a book that I've much loved and have preached on with all of you before, it's a book called A General Theory of Love, written by a group of doctors who studied the actual physiology of love in our human bodies. And these doctors say a culture wise in love's ways would understand our relationships' demand for time. It would teach the difference between in love and loving. It would impart to its members the value of the mutuality on which their lives depend. A culture versed in the workings of emotional life would encourage and promote the activities that sustain health, togetherness with one's partner and children, homes, families, and communities of connectedness. They conclude this statement of the wisdom of love's ways by saying, the contrast between that culture and our own could not be more evident. I'd like to suggest, my friends, that right now, at this time, it's a very good time to contemplate this issue. Right now, when we've spent a year seeing so vividly how askew our cultural values are and how deeply that affects our lives, and especially the lives of our mothers and our children. It's time, my friends, it's time and far past time to come back to our true home, to come home to the heart, to give value and worth to that which is truly invaluable, the heart with which we know and feel and love ourselves, each other, and all of creation, all of nature, every single atom of this incredibly precious planet. There's a movie I'd like to recommend. I always have a movie. Today's no exception. This movie is so powerful. For the last 2 nights, I watched it both nights, and I will continue to watch it until my heart has fully received all that it has to offer. The name of this movie is Semesta in an Indonesian language. In English, it's called Islands of Faith. Scarlett, could you please put that in the chat? It's Islands of Faith, and it's available on Netflix. This movie documents the work of 7 different spiritual communities, all in Indonesia, all working to combat climate change and also to care for the people of their communities. Indonesia has pledged to reduce emissions to 29% by 2030, and each of these communities is doing its part. And they're doing their part by drawing on their own legacies of spiritual wisdom. Each one takes care of its people and its land differently. They've inherited different customs from their spiritual and cultural traditions, but all of them are grounded in and share a deep spiritual understanding of the value of the interdependent web of human community and of the vaster independent web of the natural world. So for them, flourishing is not measured in economic terms. It's not measured by the gross domestic product or the bottom lines of corporations. Their flourishing is measured in terms of health and sustainability, not only the health and sustainability of human culture, but also of the natural world within which it's embedded and on which it is completely dependent. In one segment, a Catholic priest preaches on not harming the environment. And on a practical level, he brings his congregation together to install a micro hydro system that replaces all of the generators that were generating incredible pollution for the people and the forest. Another priest supports his congregation in their traditional practice of sasi. And sasi is an indigenous practice of allowing a large area in nature for a period of time to be completely off limits. No hunting, no gathering, no human penetration at all, so that the land can recover from our human activity. In another segment, an indigenous tribe works together to protect their ancient forest, which they believe they have received as a gift from their ancestors, along with the charge and the duty to keep it safe and pass it forward. And this tribe has seen what happens to the tribes that don't protect their forest, how they lose everything that allowed them to stay on their land, and they're forced to become impoverished citizens in a world that does not value them once it has raised their forest. This is very important for us to hear right here, right now. The importance of protecting our forest, because once it is gone, what protects us, shades us, gives our land value, is gone into the pockets of an absentee owner. All of these communities share the wise understanding that nurturing their human community is absolutely essential. And without protecting their environment, that human community cannot thrive. There's another section that is particularly relevant to the experience that we have just had as a culture and as a world. There's a Hindu community in Bali that performs a powerful annual ritual called Nyepi. Nyepi is a day of silent fasting and meditation in which the entire human world comes to a halt. And in the movie, one of the priests says that the effect of this practice is extremely powerful, not only for the people, but that it alters the vibration of the entire land. And this annual ritual of purification and cessation of activity is seen as absolutely essential in maintaining the balance of both the human and the natural world. And they have before and after pictures. They show pictures of the farms and the cities with all the people, the cars, the motorcycles, people working. And then there's the day of Nyepi, and there is not a human being anywhere to be seen, total stillness. And as I watched this, I was remembering all those photos we saw early on in the pandemic of Manhattan, Rome, Paris, LA, with empty streets and blue skies. And it made me think, if we did this every year, it would be such a vivid reminder. If we took one day a year to come back into quietness and isolation, it would help us remember and acknowledge the impact that all of our frenetic activity has on the land and on our world, our movement, our travel, all of the things that we do in order to satisfy our need and desire for more wealth, more experience, more recognition, more stuff. These 7 communities in Indonesia are still in touch with their indigenous wisdom. And they, unlike us, have not been completely swallowed up by the kingdom of coin. And they are carrying what indigenous wisdom they still bear to put it into practice on the very real problems that the first world has been causing them. Here in our culture, we're beginning to recognize the value of indigenous wisdom. We're beginning to listen to the tribal elders who, for instance, 160 years ago, tried to warn us that we needed to put fire on the ground. We needed to burn the forest every few years. We didn't listen, and now we're paying the price. So out of necessity, we're beginning to learn to listen to the truth that this indigenous wisdom carries. We're beginning to listen to the tribal elders. But this is something that didn't occur to me until I was well into the preparation of this sermon. The truth is, even us, even we in the first world, we actually still do have access to one very important remnant of our own indigenous wisdom. Can you see it? Can you feel it? It's right here with us now, today. It's the topic of our sermon. The truth is, our caregivers have been walking in indigenous wisdom while the rest of us have been going astray. The caregivers, the ones who sustain our lives, who nurture our children and care for our elders, they're carrying a truth that goes all the way back to our earliest beginnings in the native forest, a truth that is carried in our DNA, a truth that connects us to each other and to all the mammals, the truth of caring for our children. And we would be wise, very wise indeed, to recognize the power of this ancient indigenous wisdom that the mothers among us and the fathers, of course, are carrying forward and enacting in their own quiet way every day in and among their own families. We carry these remnants of our indigenous wisdom, the memory of a time when the mother was valued, not only our human mothers, but the divine mother as well, the mother of us all. Whether we believe in God, goddess, or not, truly the earth is the mother of us all. And in most of our families, for generation upon generation, prayers were made, veneration was offered to the Divine Mother. Although such a practice may seem strange to us now, is it? Is it strange to remind ourselves on a daily basis that there's a feminine face to the divine, and that feminine face is expressed and given life in the human faces of the women all around us? In our contemporary world, the mother in all of her forms, the goddess as mother, Gaia as mother, the Holy Mother of God, the Mother Mary, and all of the human mothers who work day after day to care for the children. The Holy Mother in all of her forms has been sacrificed on the altar of Caesar's coin. And this is causing us and all the peoples of the world, all the plants, all the animals, tremendous suffering and pain, and now radical extinction. And if we do not stop and change our ways, truly, it will be the death of us all. But it's not too late. We can begin right here, right now, to write a new chapter in the history of women. We can look within our own hearts. We can recognize the ways in which we have forgotten to honor the mother, the ways in which we denigrate the mother, our own mothers, mothers in general, and above all, our mother Gaia, the earth. Let's come home to our wise mother, she who knows what is truly best for us and has already given it all to us. Clear water, clean air, vast forests and meadows, filled with beauty and food and all that we need. Let's come home to our wise mother. Let's have the eyes to see what she has given us, and ears to hear the wisdom of what we do next. Let's dare to remember who and what we truly are. Acknowledge the errors that we've made. Come to our senses and change our ways. And let's begin that holy work by acknowledging, honoring, and celebrating all those who do the holy work of caring for those they love, caring for their children, their animals, their parents, their friends, taking the card or the meal to lose, stopping by to visit an elder who lives alone, remembering that when we speak ill of our mothers, we denigrate ourselves. May we acknowledge, honor, and celebrate the holy work of the mothers, the inestimable value of the work that they do. And in this way, may we begin to come home to our own hearts, to our own mother, the Holy Mother Gaia, and all that she has given us, so that we may begin to sense her presence within our heart and to sense her presence in the eyes of others. For truly, we are all children of Gaia, all children of the Holy Mother. Thank you.
There is always a light. When you're ready to see it, there is always a light. When we're ready to be it, to see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will.
There is always
a light. There is always a light.
There is always a light.
When we're ready to see it, there is always a light.
There is always a light.
When we're ready to be it, to see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will.
There is always a light. There is always a light.
Shall
So now it is the time in our service where we make our offerings. How do we do that today after all that's been given to us and that all we've been reminded of? It's really wonderful for me to tell you that our offering this morning is going to Food for People, the food bank. If we were to think of a nonprofit, service organization that has taken the waste or that our for-profit food system has created, captured it, restored it, combined it, and offered it to the very people that our same capitalist food system has left behind and can't afford to eat. That is what food banking is. And this morning, it is our monthly offering, and it is our offering for this morning. It's a service that is very close to my heart. It is why I came to Humboldt County. I was the food bank director in San Francisco when Cynthia, my partner, was the food bank director here. And we got to know each other sharing shipments of food up the 101 corridor. And it was our choice to work in food banks because it was the most fundamental thing that one can think of as a way to serve people, to make sure that everyone has food. It was this congregation that led the capital campaign that bought the food bank building, along with Cynthia, 21 years ago. The very building that they've now had to destroy because it was so contaminated. And there is a new capital campaign going on now. So whatever we give in this time of COVID, when there's more need for food than ever, and the food bank is needing to rebuild, this is a perfect time for us to give. So as Scarlett has shown us, there are multiple ways to, oh dear, I just technologically challenged myself. If you give, if you send a check or take a check by the office, be sure you put in the, make it out to Food for People. If you want to give your pledge, make it out to Huff. But anything that is made out to Huff today will go to Food for People. I hope that is clear. And please put it in the memo line. Yeah, put it in the memo line. Yeah. So now Annette will grace us with the music as we make our offerings.
So I named most of my pieces over the last years just the dates because I felt like the date was so important to understand the context. So this is August 30th, 2020. I have become untethered. The days unfurl like one thick fog, tasks separate and distinct. Schedule support calls, offer exercise classes, help find the computation mistake, drive the kids' works to school, calm the worried mother, feed the chicks, bury the dead one, scoop the cat litter, wash the dishes, clean the counter, harvest the kale, build a fire, drink that beer, play the game. When I was younger, I believed that teaching and parenting well could transform our culture. I'm not so sure if I believe I can do this anymore. Not from my role, not from this seat. I'm too focused on what I can't do. I can't assign revolutionary readings. I can't teach students that writing changes the inner trajectory of your life. I can't create sequences of experiences. Hell, I can't even decide my own children's curriculum right now. I return again to the question, what can I do? I know my role right now is not to teach, but to inspire healthy choices. Choose water. Choose exercise. Choose art or music. Choose backyard fires with friends. But I can't seem to shake the reoccurring doubts asking, do these choices even matter? What do I truly believe? At Vanaprastha, on retreat, my body becomes river. Neurons flow through channels like water, cold, refreshed, traveling in a clear direction. The mouth may be miles away, but an inner knowing guides each step. Choose the path away from the rattlesnake in the garden. Sleep under the milky sky. Sing the songs your daughter receives from the stars. Receive their light, let them fill you up. Shining bright, fighting hard against the darkness. Receive their light, let them fill you up. See them shining bright, fighting hard against the darkness. Let those songs she received from the stars fill you up until a deep channel is etched into my body that can carry this melody back into our home. Thank you so much. I look forward to listening to the rest of the service.
And thank you all for being here today. Thank you all who participated. Thank you all who participated by receiving and showing up. I want to close, extinguish the chalice with these words from Mother Teresa. Love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service. Whatever form we are, able or disabled, young or old, rich or poor, whatever gender, it is not how much we do, but how much love we put into the doing. a lifelong sharing of love with others. Elisabeth, would you help us go from here in peace?
Go from here in peace, go in love. Go from here in peace, go in love. Go from here in peace, go in love. In peace, go in peace.
Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Ashe. Blessed be. Namaste. And I apologize if I forgot one.
Thank you, Elisabeth. We're going to do our coffee hour a little different. Karen has agreed. Well, actually, she requested that we hang out and talk together a little. She'll be here, and if you want to, if you have the time and the spaciousness of the day to stay and talk with her. If you need to leave, that's just fine. We all understand, and you can leave at any time. So, but if you would welcome the opportunity to maybe share your own experiences with Karen and have her share some of the resources